Hello, Starshine. My name is Liz and this is my channel, Simsational Stories. If you have not seen my videos before and you enjoy this one, please like and subscribe, and maybe check out my other social media as well. I'm on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter. All relevant links are in the description below. Finally, before I begin my Simsational story, I'd like to issue this blanket content and trigger warning. The following story is just Sims, hey. I'm not going to apologise for treating them terribly, if that's what I've done. But I do want to assure you now that although I mean absolutely no harm, I completely understand if you feel unable to consume my content. Many loves, and we will catch each other on the internet elsewhere. Okay, so now I've gotten that over with. Let's go. Today's story is from Audre Whitman, the Audacious Maid, and we're at chapter 12. If you have not seen previous chapters and would like to catch up, there are playlists available on my channel, so you can hear the entire story in chronological order. The rest of us are going to move on from where we left off last time though. So without further ado, Audre Lewis was halfway through the home inspection with a social worker, and she feared that it was not going well. She'd cleaned everything up, of course, but without her daughter Cassie actually being there, the whole place just felt so tawdry and fake, like she was putting on a show of being a good parent rather than truly being one, and Audre felt wildly insecure. The way that woman looked at her, it made Audrey's hands shake with anxiety. But she wasn't withdrawing from alcohol or anything else like that. She swore she wasn't. It had been hard for Audre, and she openly admitted that. She had been young and already pregnant when she married, and with Anton deployed overseas almost immediately after the birth of their daughter, Audre had struggled with motherhood. Looking back now, she thought that she might have had postnatal depression actually, and she had spoken to her doctor about it. He'd prescribed her some medication which she'd started to take, and while she was sure that her soon-to-be ex-husband Anton had probably been telling the social worker all sorts of lies, the real truth was their daughter, Cassandra, was Audrey's whole world, and she would do anything to have her back home where she belonged. Anton believed that he didn't need to tell any tales. Audrey's situation versus his own spoke for itself. He and his new partner Clarissa were already providing a strong, safe and stable environment for Cassie, and with the recent changes to Clarissa's situation, they planned to marry themselves as soon as legally possible. When they had first met during his deployment in Mount Komorabi, Clarissa had been married to Major Herman Brumfield, Anton's superior officer. Herman was rather elderly and a good 45 years older than his young, beautiful wife, who was a retired runway model, and Anton had been attracted to her from the start. Clarissa was such a seemingly devoted and doting wife, happily listening to her husband ramble on and on about history and work at the dinner table, while she herself seemed almost forgotten and taken for granted. Anton saw her though, and made sure to let her know that he appreciated her and her efforts. Clarissa was not immune to Anton's own efforts. It was so long since she'd been wooed like this. It didn't take long for the pair to begin a clandestine affair that lasted the duration of Anton's deployment in Mount Komorabi. And that would have been where things ended too, had Anton not returned home to such an untenable situation with Audre. After coming home to find his wife Audre drunk while their daughter Cassandra cried in a dirty nappy surrounded by filth, Anton Lewis was overwhelmed with rage and called his lawyer immediately. He'd already been having thoughts about divorce, and this settled it. He was done. Their marriage was over. Upon hearing of Anton's woes over lunch, Herman had invited Anton to bring his daughter to stay with him and his wife in their Windenburg home. Of course, Herman had no idea that Clarissa and Anton had been having an affair for over a year now, but at least Anton had had somewhere safe to bring Cassie. The little girl had been through so much turmoil recently, and Anton wanted things to calm down a little before he sprang yet another change on her. Before Cassie could get used to anything, though, Herman Brumfield surprised them all by passing away one evening just as Clarissa served him his dinner. They had always known this would happen. He had been her senior by over 45 years, and yet, somehow, it still shocked Clarissa when her husband died. Even more shockingly, after years of happy infertility, soon after the death of her husband, Clarissa found herself suffering from morning sickness. She had never before in her life even had a scare, but after 6 home tests and a doctor visit, she finally had to admit the truth to herself. She was pregnant. Whose child was it, though? After Herman's funeral, she had had him cremated, sold the house in Mount Komorabi, and moved back to the house in Windenburg to discreetly be with Anton. Clarissa had never bothered to use protection with Anton any more than she had with Herman, but surely the baby must be his, Anton's, she meant. Of course it was his baby. Anton was sure of it, so sure that the moment Clarissa told him the wonderful news, that he'd instantly booked them a 3-night escape to Solani, where he proposed to her on the beach. Cassie had been told just a little ahead of time, so she was part of their engagement story, and everything was set. Audrey's best and only friend Thalia showed her everything. It was all online on Clarissa's social bunny profile for anyone to see. They weren't even hiding it now. No, now that Herman was dead, they were openly together and pregnant and engaged, all of them just playing happy families together while Audrey sat at home alone. Audrey wasn't alone in this, though. Thalia had promised her long ago that she'd stand by her no matter what, and she was doing exactly that. At least 3 times a week, Thalia would come by the apartment and knock on the door briskly, refusing to leave until Audrey either let her in or came up with a really good excuse as to why not. It had been Thalia who first gently suggested to her and then energetically helped her to clean the place up before her house inspection with the social worker. Audrey had already kind of given up, not on her daughter so much as herself, but Thalia convinced her to at least try to do better and tell the truth about why things had gotten so bad. Thalia also went with her for her first visitation with Cassie since Anton left with her, and where he announced that they were applying to sever Audrey's parental rights as part of the process of Clarissa adopting Cassandra. Thalia couldn't believe what she was hearing. Anton had barely been there for his daughter's entire life. Audrey had done everything, and now he wanted to take her away forever? Thalia lost her temper in that moment, and she apologized to Audrey for it later, but at the time she saw red and started yelling at Anton. He was a monster who had preyed upon his young teenage maid, spun her a fairy tale lie about the future he would build for her, and then he'd torn her heart apart by cheating on her before ripping her child away from her. Anton was surprisingly calm for this entire outburst. He'd been expecting it and suggested that the visit be in a public place for a reason. He wanted witnesses. He was disappointed, actually, that Thalia was there and the one reacting. He'd been hoping for an outburst from Audre, but it didn't matter. He and Clarissa were starting a new family, and Audre wasn't going to be a part of it. And that brings us to the end of Chapter 12 of Audre Whitman, the Audacious Maid. If you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe so you can tune in soon to hear the next chapter. If you're a Sims player too and you'd like to download any of my characters to play for yourself, just search the hashtag Simsational Stories on the Sims 4 gallery. All original content is created by This Is Not Eric. And hey, maybe think about sharing my channel with a friend. Or don't. It's your life. Anyway, bye.